Roses are red, violets are blue. Jimmy ran out of the end zone. I doubt you would either. I fucking can't believe he did that. Next on 9 Days Nonsense. Hello and welcome to 9 Days Nonsense. And sorry for that awful poem at the beginning. I just didn't know what else to say because we have a quarterback playing who ran out of the back of his own fucking end zone. And if you think that we're going to be positive today, we're probably not going to be, because we have a quarterback who ran out of the back of his own fucking end zone. So welcome to the show. It's just me here. So we're going to rant until someone else shows up. San Francisco 49ers lost the Denver Broncos 11-10 in Denver, Colorado on Sunday. And the quarterback ran out of the back of his own fucking end zone. I don't know what else to tell you. Could you imagine making Dan Orlovsky a happy man? Because I can't get over the fact that this guy was so bad that Dan Orlovsky, who was a career backup for Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford. God, see, look at me. He never really started much except for when Matthew Stafford was hurt. And he was famous because he ran out of his own fucking end zone. And now we have a quarterback who's been in the league for 9 years, 8 years, something like that, who ran out of the back of his end zone. And he's so terrible at taking accountability for it. He then went on to a press conference and then talked about how, we need to get better. We need to not walk out of the back of our own fucking end zone. We need to not throw the ball to the other team. We need to, you have Kyle Shanahan trying just to try to have some sort of normalcy, saying it's my fault. How is it Kyle's fault that the quarterback is so dumb that he runs out of the back of his own fucking end zone? I'm sorry we're swearing a lot. It's YouTube, and I'm probably going to get demonetized if that happens on here. I don't care. The quarterback ran out the back of his own fucking end zone. The Niners' offense wasn't really keyed in. It seemed like the only people who were really doing worth a damn was Kittle and Debo, and of course Trent before he got hurt, because the quarterback ran out of the back of his own fucking end zone. And so, it feels like things are kind of rocky right now. And it feels bad to be a Niner fan right now, and I think that sucks. But at the same point, I think things will be better. They do play the Rams next week. They do own the Rams, minus the NFC Championship game where Jimmy Garoppolo just decided that, hey, I'm going to let Aaron Donald take me down. And so, at some point you have to kind of realize that, the season changed last week, right? As fun as it is to beat the shit out of Seattle, which it's absolutely a blast. Fuck the Seattle Seahawks forever and always, right? But when he went down, it changed because it became, another Jimmy Garoppolo season. And I think that maybe we got fooled because the Seahawks are so bad that maybe he would be better in this offense. He said it's like riding a bike. Everything was fine, right? And then this week he runs out of his own fucking end zone. And so it's just, this is the experience. This is the Jimmy Garoppolo experience that we've come to know and loathe. And I feel like at this point, nothing's going to change. He's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo. He's going to, for some reason, not see Deebo Samuel wide open doing this. I think about this in the grand scheme of things. If you're standing here waving your arm and someone doesn't see you, are they just blind? Are they just not paying attention? Do they just not care? And I'm beginning to think it's all three. I just don't think he gives a shit. I don't think he cares. He's made his money. He's a $100 million man. He's handsome. He can get whatever he wants, right? He pretends like he wants to play football. I did this. Pretends like he wants to play football, but I don't think he cares. I don't think he cares about winning. I don't think he cares about being here. It's mind-numbing because when you think about Trey Lance and the kid, he wants to be great. You know, he's a 22-year-old kid with more mental stability than the 31-year-old man who is starting at the backup spot. And I mean, you got a guy who's spiteful in Jimmy Garoppolo, who decided to go get shoulder surgery instead of getting traded to the Washington football Commanders. Sorry, they call the Commanders now. It's still crazy to me. And if this sounds like it's just kind of uncensored, it's because it is. I just kind of wanted just to rant. I haven't got a chance to talk a lot about this, so bear with me on here if this isn't the kind of podcast you enjoy. But he just doesn't care. He doesn't really give a shit about winning. Him and Kyle obviously don't like each other, and I think that's pretty apparent. Like, you watch it and you see it. And at some point, you kind of have to start to think, like, when do the players get frustrated? When do the guys who spent their blood, sweat, and tears this offseason, you know, to go out there and play football and win, get frustrated with this whole thing? Because if I'm Deebo Samuel, you know, I could have been traded somewhere else. You know, I would probably made the same money, but I could have been with a better quarterback. You know, I signed a contract to be with Trey Lance because I thought Trey Lance was at least going to be able to get me down the ball when I'm downfield waving my arm, you know, like an idiot. I mean, like, think about that. When do you wave your arm to someone when you're showing someone where they you know, you're in a crowd of people and you're trying to show people where you are, you wave your arm. This man is so dumb or just so unapparently just doesn't understand what's going on or has no spatial or field awareness that he can't see a man waving his arm in the air. Just waving his arm. Just standing there waving his arm. He just doesn't see it. Just doesn't even want to see it, doesn't even try to see it. I mean, there's a video going around of him looking directly at Deebo Samuel and then immediately, you know, with his little happy feet looking in a different direction. And I don't know if it's the fact that he knows he's not able to throw the ball there or what it is, but I mean, anyone who's smart, I mean, anyone who gets C's or even D pluses in school can see that when you watch the 49ers, there's a person open all the time. And so if you're one of those people telling me this is Kyle Shanahan's fault, shame on you. Shame on you. Because this guy not only has gotten us 2 NFC championship games, a Super Bowl, and he has some of the most talented wide receivers in the world who are open a lot of the time. He just has a quarterback who can't get him the ball. And so when you have a quarterback who is incapable of throwing outside the numbers, you know, Kev, I wish he could be here. He's busy with some stuff. He kind of brought this up. It takes basically 33% of the field is just gone. 33% of the field is just gone. You're not capable of throwing the ball to that 33% of the field. And when that happens, it makes the offense even more one-dimensional than it is already. And that, plus the idea that every safety is keying on the 49ers saying, okay, you know what, Kyle? We know that you get these easy little passes on us, and we're not going to let you do that, and we're not going to let you run the ball. And when you can't run the ball, Jimmy can't do anything. He's just incapable of anything. He has no ability to sit there or even just move outside the pocket and read a field. He has no pocket awareness. He has no field awareness. He has no arm talent. It's just, this is what it is. Like, this is what it is. I mean, we thought we were kind of over this last year when they finally announced that Trey Lance is going to be the starter going into this year, and Trey gets hurt. And, you know, last week we're like, oh, you know, we'll see what happens with Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, it's one thing. It's one thing for us to be like, you know what? I believe in Jimmy. He's the best quarterback for this team. But if you're telling me that you believe in Jimmy Garoppolo after he ran out of the back of his own fucking end zone, I'd love to know how, because I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't get how you can stand up for this guy. The guy ran out of the back of his own end zone, man. And it's one thing to be like, well, the offensive line isn't blocking well, or, you know, this or that, or the play calls are bad. But the play calls aren't bad because dudes are wide open in the middle of the field. Dudes are running wide open on the field in general. So what is it that is causing a 9-year veteran to run out of the back of his own end zone, to have such poor field awareness that he runs out of the back of his own red zone, I don't know. I honestly have no idea. It's mind-blowing to me, and that's why we started the way we did today, because at this point, he doesn't care to get better. He doesn't care to do anything other than the bog standard of a quarterback and get paid. And at this point, it's just like, I mean, how is he going to screw this game up? You know, when it became, as soon as Russell scored that touchdown, did anyone, if you had faith in Jimmy Garoppolo, please send me a tweet at 90849. Faith in Jimmy Garoppolo that he was going to score a touchdown to take the lead when it became 10-11, because I had no faith. I didn't believe in the guy. What has he done to show you that he is able to play from behind another team and win with his arm? I don't think he's done anything. I don't think he's ever showed us anything that he can do that. And so he's a backup. He's a backup quarterback. And, you know, someone who tries to be positive a lot of the time, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's on this show, which has my own name on it, you know, I put money into this. This is my show, right? I try to be positive. But right now, it's pretty hard to be positive when your backup quarterback might be worse than your third-string quarterback. I can, if people want to ask questions, you're welcome to ask questions. I was just going to sit here and rant for 30, 40 minutes. So, throwback, which comment? This one? Got you. I agree, Nate. Who cares? That's why teams don't want to trade for him and pay him $25 million. Of course not. Why would you pay this guy $25 million? What has he done to show you that he's worth $25 million? I mean, he's done nothing. He did nothing when he was here. And, you know, it's like, it's one thing to be like, well, you know, he came in and he won 6 games. And that's great, right? They paid him. And he got his money, right? Following year, he played 2 games, got hurt the 3rd game. He didn't play well in those 2 games. He didn't play well in either game. He got hurt against Kansas City. The year after that, he plays a whole season, but he's pretty much masked by this run game that nobody truly understands yet, because we didn't have a million copycat Kyle Shanahans. But now things are different. And maybe Kyle saw this coming, but the whole entire NFL is different. We're not sitting on the only hot offensive commodity in the NFL anymore. You know, there's one in Miami. There's one with the New York Jets. There's one in Green Bay. There's one in Cincinnati. There's one in Cleveland. They're all running the same scheme. The whole NFL almost is running the same scheme, except for some of the old fogey head coaches. So you have to do something to differentiate yourself from them. And the difference between the Miami Dolphins and the San Francisco 49ers, in my opinion, is the quarterback. Because the Niners defense is absolutely better than the Miami Dolphins. And Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are studs. But I don't think that that Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle are not studs. I'd rather have George Kittle and Mike Gesicki. I'd probably rather have Tyreek Hill over, you know, Brandon Ayuk. But I think that Deebo Samuel and Jalen Waddle are pretty similar. I mean, not similar in the way they play, obviously, but similar in like their skill top level, right? And so when you think about what's the big difference, well, I think that Miami might have a better offensive line. I think the 49ers kind of fucked up the offensive line situation by keeping Jimmy Garoppolo. But Tua Tagovailoa is better because he has Mike McDaniels. And Jimmy Garoppolo, don't get it twisted, he's better because he has Kyle Shanahan. I mean, if this guy went to the Commanders, and I think Ron Rivera is their head coach, he would be worse than Carson Wentz. Bar none worse than Carson Wentz. Kyle Shanahan hides how terrible some of these guys are. You know, Kyle Shanahan is able to make guys look a lot better than they actually are. I don't think that's anything that anyone's questioning or really talking enough about. Like, people like to play the blame game after games like this when you lose. But if they didn't have Kyle Shanahan, I don't know what the 49ers would be. I have no idea. And so people who are blaming Shanahan for this, like there's some blame, right? If we're just ran here, right? The blame can go anywhere. But the main thing you blame Kyle Shanahan for, in my opinion, is not starting Trey Lance last year, right? That's number one. I think that's the number one thing you should blame Kyle Shanahan for. If Trey Lance starts last year, he's in a much better situation to start this year, and he's probably not being run as much as he was. And then you have to think more on the fact that the offensive line was not put in a position to help Trey Lance. You know, I love Trent Williams. He's going to go down as one of the best tackles of all time in Niner history, probably, right? But Mike McGlinchey, much like Jimmy Garoppolo, has shown an inability to get better. He doesn't get better. He's stayed the same, and he hasn't improved at all. And Spencer Burford is a rookie. Aaron Banks is a rookie. Jake Brendel had 7 starts before he started. And I like Jake Brendel. I think he's good. I think he's fine. I think Aaron Banks is fine. I think Spencer Burford's fine. I think those are decent players, right? But to go out with a rookie quarterback and rely on Mike McGlinchey coming off of a pretty major injury is troubling. And now Trent Williams is down, and they're going to have to rely on Colton McKivitz for Jimmy Garoppolo. And when Trey Lance plays, obviously, there's a difference, because when Trey Lance plays, he can at least move outside of the pocket. Jimmy Garoppolo, I mean, if I could stand here and stand up right now and there wasn't a thing right here, he literally just stands there and does this. Like, you know, you've seen the Dak Prescott thing. This man's just like jiggling his hips like he's doing the fucking Macarena or something. I don't know what's going on in his mind, but I think it was Steve Young said that if your feet are moving, your brain is moving. And so I just don't think that this man's brain stops thinking, and he's processing so fast, right? And he's just not smart enough to process it. When you watch Patrick Mahomes, really watch Patrick Mahomes next time he plays. Really watch Josh Allen. Patrick Mahomes, there's so much going on in his brain, but his feet aren't toe tapping like he's in, you know, the river dance. You know, he's constantly processing things in his head without his feet moving all the time. And when he does still process, he's running outside the pocket while still processing and looking downfield to throw. Jimmy Garoppolo, his stands seem to be obsessed with this idea that he gets the ball out really fast, which he definitely does, right? But generally when you get the ball out that fast, it's because you're just going to your first read. And it really feels like lately, and this is last year in the playoffs, and this year so far in this Broncos game. The Seahawks game, I feel like, was such a blowout, and they're such a dog shit team, it didn't matter. But he is incapable of throwing to anybody but his first read. He just can't do it. I just don't think he's able to. And part of it is the fact that he doesn't think that far ahead, but I also don't think that he even looks that far ahead. He's not looking to throw to Brandon Ayuk when he's already decided he's throwing to Deebo Samuel. He doesn't look to throw to George Kittle when he's already decided he's throwing to Deebo Samuel. And now you have an offensive line that's not going to be able to block for the guy. I mean, that's not even a hot take here. The guy's just going to stand there like an idiot, and Aaron Donald's going to kill him. I mean, he's not a starting NFL quarterback. And the continuance of, I don't want to use the word, Jimmy fans or people who prefer Jimmy Garoppolo as the quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers continue to tell you that he gives them the best chance to win, right? And they continue to tell him that he is the best quarterback for this team going forward. And I think that this year, and I would love to be wrong. They could beat the shit out of the Rams, and I'll be wrong, and I'll come on the show and say those 3 magic words. I was wrong. I'm fine with that. But this season is going to be the season where the he wins arguments are going to be, they're going to be gone. I don't think he's going to be able to win. And I think that when he starts to lose and look bad every game, And I know he just ran out of the back of his own fucking end zone. But I'm saying lose games that they should win. Carolina, Atlanta. Jimmy Garoppolo is that much of a, we'll go with non-gamer, look for a better word, that Jimmy Garoppolo is the type of person to completely shut himself down, and they'll play Brock Purdy. I don't think the money thing for the 49ers matters. If this guy's healthy all year, they'll play him because they have nothing else, to do. But anyone who told me before this game on Sunday that the 49ers are a better football team with Jimmy Garoppolo, slap yourself in the face. Just do it. Because if you're telling me that Trey Lance would run out of the back of his own end zone after playing only 13 games in college football, I'd bet you $1,000 he doesn't. Kid's played 13 games in NCAA football, not even NCAA, played FCS, and I guarantee you he doesn't do this. And Jimmy Garoppolo being like, oh, well, it's rust, it's this, it's that. It's like, yeah, but it was like riding a bike the week before. So what is it? Are you just making up excuses? You have no accountability. It's always we. You don't care about when you mess up. And now there's a video of you going around saying either draw plays suck or your plays suck. And Damian, here's the deal with that. And I know we're just kind of all over the place today, but this is what it is. This is what it is today. Sorry, guys. When you talk about the lead blowing, right? The lead blowing goes on the defense, right? That's what the general idea is. But you have a defense that's only allowing a team 9 points. That's 9 points. When you're getting multiple 3-and-outs or you're getting maybe one first down, it is very hard to continue to play the good defense you are playing when you are not getting any rest in between reps. And so if you want to blame Kyle for the fact that they only allowed 9 points, I mean, you can, I guess, that's fine. That's your prerogative. But any team in the NFL let a team only score 9 points, they're winning that game. But Jimmy Garoppolo is so bad that he's not able to execute the plays that Kyle Shanahan is giving him. Kyle Shanahan is giving him, give me plays you can score easily on. Like, these plays are not plays that are the same shit that you gave Nick Mullins, the same stuff they gave CJ Beathard. Those are the plays Kyle Shanahan is running. And Jimmy Garoppolo is just not getting these guys the ball at all. And so at some point, you can blame Kyle if you really, really want to. Go for it. But this Sunday game against Denver, if anything, he's 10% because of other extraneous factors. I don't think this blame goes on Jimmy Garoppolo. I just don't see it. 49ers throwback, Jimmy Garoppolo, with the way the NFL is now, 25, 26 maybe. He's better than Mitchell Trubisky, I think. He's not better than Carson Wentz. And I don't even know if he's better than Matt Ryan, and I think Matt Ryan stinks. Just because Matt Ryan's old. Matt Ryan was good at one point, right? Like, he was talented. But Tua's kind of shot up there a little bit. Jalen Hurts has shot up there a little bit. And those were guys who were back there kind of keeping him in that 18, 19, 20 range. But now that those guys are better, I think he shoots way down. I mean, how many of those quarterbacks ran out of their own back of their own fucking end zone? I can't stand up for a man who runs out of the back of his own end zone. And people are like, oh, it's Kyle's fault for running that play. That's a weird play to run, don't get me wrong. But at some point, it's going to be a safety no matter what, because you can't run the ball. The safeties are literally just keying in on stopping the run game. You can't do anything. The offense can't do anything. It's incapable of doing anything because of the fact that this is a team that primarily runs the ball and is not able to run the ball. When you can't run the ball, you can't do shit. And that's where we are. We're a running football team that is unable to run the ball because no one, and I mean no one, not one football team is afraid of Jimmy Garoppolo. And that's including the dog shit Seattle Seahawks. Because when you look at the all 22 angles, and when Jimmy Garoppolo came in for Trey Lance, the safeties immediately keyed in on stopping the run. It's what the first thing they did. And so at this point, I mean, you can blame Kyle. That's fine. That's your prerogative. But what is Kyle supposed to do? What does he do when he can't run the football and his quarterback can't get the ball to wide open receivers? I don't know what you're supposed to do. I'd take Mac over Jimmy Garoppolo too. Absolutely. Mac Jones is kind of a little girl. But he's still better than Jimmy Garoppolo. He has better arm talent. And he's hurt again too. So, Justin Fields and here's the thing about this whole situation with Trey Lance is Trey Lance should have played last year. That's unequivocally what should have happened, right? There's no reason that Trey Lance should have not have played last year. Like, I understand maybe they don't make the NFC Championship game, but did we get a parade in the middle of San Francisco? No. So would you give up developing the future of the franchise for no parade? Or would you rather develop a kid so that he has more? He's not just running the ball because he needs to learn to develop as a passer. And that's a Kyle thing. That is where I blame Kyle. That is where I get mad about Kyle Shanahan. There's no reason that if you trade 3 first-round picks for a quarterback that he shouldn't play. And there's no reason that when a quarterback plays as well as he did against the Texans in that second half, that he shouldn't be given a chance to build upon what he did. But here's the deal with these quarterback class at this point, right? Trevor Lawrence is starting to finally look like Trevor Lawrence with the Jags. Granted, I think the Chargers are pretty overhyped. I could do a whole NFL show about my opinions on NFL teams, but I don't think the Chargers are that good. Justin Herbert's really talented. The rest of that team is pretty overhyped. But right now, Trevor Lawrence looks like Trevor Lawrence, right? Zach Wilson, for the most part, has played, more games than Trey Lance, but he's been pretty injured. I think he got injured last year. He's been injured this year. Seems like he might be injury prone. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe he'll come back and kick ass, right? Trey Lance was basically subjected to the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo was there and they wanted to start him for some reason. And I've said I don't think that was the right decision, but that was what he was subjected to. Justin Fields is on one of the worst NFL offenses I've ever seen. So there's that, right? That offense is useless. It's absolutely useless. There's no point. None of those guys can catch the football. So to judge Justin Fields is hard right now, but next year, if he's still terrible, then maybe they do. Justin Fields stinks. Mac Jones has lost a lot of games at this point. I think he lost 6 straight to end last season, and he's only won 1 game this year against a Steelers team that didn't have TJ Watt and was playing Mitchell Trubisky at quarterback. So this quarterback class is still unknown. And if you're someone who is so ignorant to say that any of these guys are a bust after this year, middle of this year, even right now, Trey Lance played 3.5 games. People are calling him a bust. I won't call Justin Fields a bust. And I like Justin Fields, but he is starting to worry me. Trevor Lawrence might, finally be Trevor Lawrence. We'll see. It's the Jaguars, but that division is dog shit. And there's a chance that because that division is so bad that he might win it, which would make him the best of the quarterbacks, which he should be. If you're taken first overall, you should be the best. Like, there's no question about it. So at this point, you kind of just have to go with the flow with Jimmy Garoppolo and see where things go, see what happens. It's not always going to be pretty. It's certainly not going to ever be pretty, probably. But this is where we are, and this is what we have to deal with. I'm going to bring Kev up, and we'll talk for a little bit, and then you guys let me vamp for 30 minutes. That's wild. Here we go. Button. Who's got the button? What's up, Kev?
Hey, what's up, Nate? I'm trying to upload this background real quick, but no worries.
Oh,
Can
you
you
should
hear
have
me?
said private chat. Yeah. Yeah, I've been vamping for 30 minutes just sitting here by myself, bitching about Jimmy
Nice.
Garoppolo. So if you want to
Okay.
continue in on that, you made a great point yesterday in one of the spaces I was listening to. You basically said at some point someone has to take accountability. And I think you said it the day of the game. And Kyle came out yesterday and he took accountability. And so I'd love to know, as someone who probably is one of the less Kyle Shanahan fans I know, how you feel about this whole situation, the fact that the quarterback doesn't take accountability, the fact that the head coach literally has to put everything on his shoulders. He has to be absolutely perfect because the quarterback is absolute trash balls.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the whole thing with Kyle is that him not taking accountability after games is mainly like the reason why I'm upset at him. I don't think he's a bad play designer, play caller, offensive mind. That I understand. It's the off the field stuff that really irks me the wrong way, because we heard last week after Trey got hurt, he said he would run the same stuff again. But then this week he called a pass deep in their own territory. Garoppolo steps out of bounds in the back of the end zone for a safety. And then Kyle comes up and says, I put him in a bad spot. To me, it's like you put both quarterbacks either in a bad situation, or we've talked about Trey kept the ball and it was a freak accident. And in this situation, it's like Jimmy Garoppolo is a veteran quarterback. He's been in that situation before. He knows to not make that bonehead of a mistake. So it's either you put them both in a bad situation, or they both ultimately, Trey got hurt because it was his decision to keep the ball, and Garoppolo was stupid enough to go out of the back of the end zone. It's like it has to be the same. It's either you take accountability for both, or you defer the blame to both of them. Does that make sense?
I mean, Kev, we all know it's not Kyle's fault that this idiot who's been in the league for 9 years ran out of the back of his own end zone. Like, we're not stupid. I do agree with what you're saying. I think that, maybe Kyle, instead of fighting the media last week and coming out and being like, well, have you watched other football teams? Because it came off as defensive, or trying to be defensive against what was said. And I think maybe it came off the wrong way. And I don't think he meant it to be an asshole. I think that he's just really frustrated with the fact that he has to. I think part of it was he was really frustrated with the fact that he knew he's going to have to play Jimmy Garoppolo again. I don't think he likes Jimmy Garoppolo.
He didn't look happy on the sideline on Sunday night.
No, I don't think he likes him. I really don't think he likes Jimmy Garoppolo. I think that he hates playing him. I think that it's one of those things, Kevin. I think we've talked about this before. When Trey Lance is out there, he's a plus athlete. And what that means is that when you have someone who can potentially make plays with their legs, it at least makes the offense where it doesn't have to be perfect all the time. Say Mahomes doesn't have the arm talent he has. And I love talking about Patrick Mahomes because I think that, a lot of people I talked a lot of shit about him his rookie year, and he proved me wrong. And so I'll always stand up for Patrick Mahomes. But say Patrick Mahomes didn't have the arm talent he had, right? And this is rookie year. Patrick Mahomes, with his ability to run the ball, would at least keep teams a little more honest than Alex Smith. And Absolutely. So with Trey Lance, they know Trey Lance probably isn't like Lamar Jackson type plus athlete, right? He's talented. He has the ability to run the ball, and he does have he has all the arm talent in the world. He needs to hone it, and that's going to take time. But when you have that on the other side of the field, it at least makes you think twice about keying in and just stopping the run. And I think that the reason the Chiefs specifically have seen more success in their run game is because of Patrick Mahomes. When Alex Smith was there, I feel like their run game was not as prevalent as it is now.
Right.
They went out and drafted a running back in the first round after winning the Super Bowl because they're running the ball so much more. And I think that when Trey Lance gets to that point, and I'm not saying Trey Lance is Patrick Mahomes, but I'm saying when Trey Lance can figure out his accuracy issues, as well as run the ball, as well as throw the ball, as well as make plays off schedule, that changes the 49ers offense to the point where Kyle doesn't have to be perfect all the time. Because right now, if Kyle isn't absolutely perfect and guys are not absolutely running butt naked, wide open all the time, we're going to lose. It's as simple as that. We're going to lose. If Kyle Shanahan isn't perfect, and that's where people come in or they go on Twitter and they just say, well, you know what? Kyle Shanahan stinks. He's a terrible head coach. He's awful. Because look at these plays. Look at Jimmy Garoppolo's getting killed. Look, the ball's not getting to the players. Well, Jimmy Garoppolo chooses to throw to triple coverage as opposed to throw to a guy who's wide open. And it's just, at this point, I just feel stupider arguing with people about it because I think Kyle Shanahan is really talented. But the question that someone asked recently on Twitter, and this is the question I want to ask you, is the Dolphins are seeing success, right? They're running the same exact scheme and with a worse defense than the Niners, worse pass rush than the Niners. And, Tyreek Hill obviously is better than Deebo Samuel, but Jalen Waddle's not better than Deebo Samuel. And Mike Gesicki's not better than George Kittle. So why are the Dolphins seeing so much success against teams like Buffalo, who are Super Bowl favorites, and the Ravens, who are Super Bowl favorites, teams like that, but the Niners are not seeing the same success? What is your answer to that?
I mean, it's a loaded question, but I mean, I watched a little bit of the Dolphins and Bills game this past weekend. I think for me, the quarterback is better. Okay. So I think the quarterback's better.
Froze. Yeah.
Better? Okay.
Yeah, you're good now.
So I think the quarterback is better. I think they're more balanced on offense. This is not working.
I think you're freezing over there, Kevin. What's wrong?
Let's see. Is that better?
Yeah, you're a little delayed, but you're not frozen.
Okay.
Continue your thought. Jordan Elliott was the one who brought it up, by the way.
Okay. So what I was saying was, I think one, the quarterback is better. Two, I think the players are executing better on offense. But honestly, I think it's because, and I watched a little bit of the game, they're staying more balanced. Like, they're running the ball effectively, and that's why I think. And honestly, Raheem Mostert was one of my favorite players because at any time you could take it to the house, right? And so in some of these runs that we have, some of these guys aren't going to hit the hole as fast as Mostert. I really think Mostert was a huge part of the offense once we used him effectively and enough. I know he was injury prone, but man, like if you have a guy in the backfield that could just take it to the house at any given time, the defense on the other side has to respect that. We don't really have that on offense. We don't really have that in the running back room. Trey Lance is not going to run 75 yards for a touchdown. That's just not his game. He's not Lamar. He's not RG3. So for me, it's the threat of a speed guy in the backfield. It's being balanced in offense, running the ball effectively, and getting the ball out to your playmakers. But that's the thing is, like, you still have to execute the play for that to happen. And to me, the Miami Dolphins are just executing. I mean, I watched play. It was the 2019 San Francisco 49ers offense. They were running double reverses. They were running quick slant. They were running screens. I mean, they were doing everything that we were doing in 2019, but they were just executing. And I just don't think we're executing on offense. I don't think the quarterback is executing. I think maybe, I don't want to use this as an excuse, but he hasn't had the most amount of time with the receivers. Maybe the timing is just a little bit off, and that's what's holding him back. I think Kyle, we saw he was scheming guys wide open. I mean, those are throws you got to make. If you're an NFL quarterback, you got to make those throws. So for me, I think Miami, they're more balanced right now. I mean, we're averaging like 4.5 yards a carry, but we're only running it 18, 19 times a game. So I think they're running the ball effectively. They're staying balanced, and the quarterback is executing.
I think the problem with the run game with the 49ers, I think that I kind of talked about it in my 30-minute rant I did before you got here, is they can't run the ball. I mean, you saw it. Denver wouldn't let them run the ball. And then that was the thing, is like they got that one big run, which Kyle set up perfectly. Right. And then they couldn't run the ball again after that. And it's funny because I was looking at the stat lines because, I'm stupid enough to keep looking at these stat lines.
Which is kind of interesting. On that play, if we had Mostert, that's probably a touchdown. because he splits the hole and he's gone.
Yeah, Jeff Wilson's slower. And so here's what's interesting, Kevin. So Wilson had 12 carries for 75 yards, right?
Mm-hmm.
That one play, do you know how long it was?
It's got to be 40 plus.
That one play was 37 yards.
Okay.
So we subtract 30. So I said 75, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we subtract 37 yards from 75, right? That's 12. That's 11 carries for 38 yards. 11 carries for 38 yards. They cannot run the ball.
Right.
They can't run the ball. And it's not Jeff Wilson's fault. It's not Kyle Shanahan's fault. It's the fact that these teams are not going to let the 49ers run the ball when they know that the quarterback can't throw.
All they have to do is load the box. 8-9 in the box. That's it.
And the reason we're able to do it against the Seahawks for a throwback, I think it's because the Seahawks are dog shit, to be honest with you. When you're playing a better defense, like we're going to be playing the Rams here in a week now, the Rams are going to do the same exact thing. And so Kyle has to be perfect. And if Kyle's perfect, they're going to win. But if Kyle's not perfect, Sean McVay and the Super Bowl champions are going to get the best of the 49ers. And that's my biggest fear, is that Kyle Shanahan, well, I think he's pretty damn good at scheming, run schemes, and scheming guys open. I mean, the fact that the Deebo was so open, I mean, Kevin, it's disgusting how open Deebo Samuel was. But it's impossible to be perfect.
In the NFL,
none of these head coaches are perfect.
In the NFL, for guys to be open like that, it doesn't happen in any other offense unless it's Kyle Shanahan's offense. Because routinely, there are 3-4 plays where it should be, if you have a halfway decent quarterback, should be touchdown or at least a massive gain to put us in the red zone or, whatever, in scoring position. And those 3 to 4 plays ultimately are the difference in a football game. Like, if you really think about it, most games come down to a few crucial plays. And if your quarterback can't do that, or if you can't get ahead early, so the defense doesn't have to be on the field the entire time, that's important. That's really important. And one thing I want to talk about the Rams is last year in the NFC Championship game, the last 12 minutes, the offense did not net a single offensive yard. And they gained yards, but they had sacks, so it evens out. They didn't, not one single yard. But it was because we couldn't run the football.
Absolutely.
We couldn't run the football. The running game was shut down. And so when we did try to pass, like, we were in behind the sticks situations.
They can't run. I mean, that's the thing, is they can't run the ball. It's when Jimmy Garoppolo is out there, they're incapable of running the football. And that is the biggest problem right now with the current 49ers as is, without Trey Lance, because look at what Throwback says, We can't disagree Trey adds more wrinkles, makes the defense have to play honest. Trey Lance is a 22-year-old rookie with 3.5 starts in the NFL. And he scares defenses more than a 9-year veteran. He ran out of his own fucking end zone.
It's true. It's true. And it's crazy. And we're going to see exactly what we saw last year in the NFC Championship game. The Rams are going to load the box. I mean, they figured it out. I mean, I think we averaged like 3.1 yards per carry that game. They're going to put 4 down linemen. They're going to have 2 outside linebackers. And then they're going to have Bobby Wagner in the middle, probably a safety low. That's 8 in the box right there.
Yeah.
And we, like, I don't know if you could hear this, but we didn't net a single yard the last 12 minutes against them in the playoffs because we couldn't run the ball. So we were at 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10. And when you have a quarterback who against the Denver defense, it's not terrible, but they're not great. I wouldn't say they're top 10 in the NFL. When you go 1 for 10 on 3rd down, it's just not going to get it done. So for me, you're right. Running the ball and playing solid defense is the key. But honestly, we might even be able to do 2 of those things, run the ball and play defense, and still may not win the game.
And it sucks. I think that this is, and they still, I think maybe because I've been so negative and on this show, they can still totally do big things in the NFL, but it has to be like last year, where there were games last year where Kyle was perfect. Kyle would just dialing shit up, and Jimmy was executing it at least a little bit. That Bengals game is one of those examples. I mean, they probably shouldn't have won that game. Jimmy played terrible. Jimmy almost threw a pick, but Kyle Shanahan, dials up that play to Ayuk, and they score that touchdown to win. I mean, they're gonna have to be perfect
A couple
for
of
the
games,
rest
man.
of the season.
I even think back to the Minnesota game, like Aziz Al-Shaair. I mean, the defense, like it was a pretty high scoring game. I think it was like 34-26 or something. But we gave up a special teams touchdown. Aziz Al-Shaair had an interception that I don't know if it was quite a pick six. I think he returned it to like the 2. But Garoppolo was he that was one of his better games, but he still wasn't great. He had the early interception. Deebo Samuel had a 35-yard touchdown along the right sideline on a running play. It was like an outside sweep. So like you have a quarterback that's inept. He basically can't do anything. And that's why I would put a little more blame on Shanahan when Trey was in there, because he has the whole field to work with. Now he's basically handcuffed. He can't do anything. I mean, the off tackle runs don't work with Deebo Samuel. The play action with Deebo Samuel in the backfield and Ayuk over the middle, that's on film. I think one play that we could use more is Deebo the wheel route out of the backfield, but even that's on film now. So it's like, how much more can he scheme up with this guy?
I think that's why Kyle said we're on to Trey, is because I think that he was, as the season went on, and I've told everybody this. I think by week 4, 5, or 6, we were going to see the Trey Lance we wanted to see. I think that Carolina-Atlanta stretch was perfect for him. I think by then he was going to be throwing more and he was going to be running. He was going to see the field better. His accuracy issues were going to start improving a little bit because he's going to be throwing more to NFL receivers in NFL situations. And, this is the bummer of this season. And while it was fun to beat Seattle because, fuck Seattle, this is the situation we're left in where, I mean, they could not win a game. There's a chance that they don't win games with Jimmy Garoppolo in there because he hampers this offense so poorly.
I agree with you to an extent. I will say the next 2 games, Baker Mayfield is Baker Mayfield, but they've got a hell of a defense up in where the Carolina. Panthers. I think they're underrated. Now, on the road, hostile environment, I mean, they've got players in all 3 levels of the defense. If we lose next week and we're 1-3 and we go to Carolina and we're down 17-3 at half, it's not looking so good, man.
No, Jimmy can't come back from that.
So to me, this game against the Rams is a must-win. It's a must-win game. To me, it's a must-win.
Yeah,
game.
Absolutely.
And if we lose, then man, the next 2 games are uber important. And because Carolina's defense is so good, and because Jimmy had the showing he did, I'm not so sure we win that game. It was a for sure win before Sunday night, but now it's no idea.
Nothing's a for sure win. I did not hear about Brent Jones bashing Jimmy Garoppolo. I'll have to watch that after I'm done here. But I mean, it sucks we have to have shows like this. I like the shows where we're celebrating a win and we're excited about this team because I think there is things to be excited about. I love Talanoa Hufanga. He continues to play really well. I think Greenlaw really picked it up the last 2 weeks after being so terrible that first week. I think Drake Greenlaw, looked very good against Seattle. He looked very good against Denver. And I think that Nick Bosa is going to win Defensive Player of the Year. The guy's tied for most sacks. He has the most quarterback hits. He's the best defensive player in the world. And he's on our team, and we're going to re-sign him, I'm sure.
Yeah.
They need to figure this shit out with Jimmy Garoppolo. They need to find a way to score points with Jimmy Garoppolo. They need to find a way to score points despite Jimmy Garoppolo. Because at this point, they're holding back what is one of the best defenses in 49ers history, probably.
It's the best defense in the NFL right now, and it's not even – I don't even think it's close, Nate.
No, it's not close. It's not close. It's not close at all.
Guys like Charvarius Ward are as advertised. I mean, he made a play last week to save the touchdown. I mean, the guy's probably – I don't want to say this, but by the end of this year, we could be saying he's been the best corner we've had since Deion Sanders.
I don't think that's a hot take. I don't think that's a hot take. I think it's going to happen.
And so when you
And I
have
think
these special players, man, like
Javon Kinlaw. I mean, we're not even talking about Javon
Yeah.
Kinlaw. Remember how much we've wanted him to play? And he's playing now, and he's phenomenal. He's better than Buckner was in some of the ways that he's playing. I mean, it's just they have shown that they know how to construct a defensive roster. And they know how to conduct an offensive roster because we have some of the best playmakers in the NFL as well. Our offensive line is a little shaky, and our quarterback's dog shit. And so that would have been different if Trey Lance was playing, but you're playing your backup. He stinks. But your offensive line, your backup quarterback, them keeping him around all offseason, cost them the ability to have a better offensive line. Mike McGlinchey shouldn't be out there.
We saw it coming.
I just don't think Mike McGlinchey should be playing football right now. I understand, like, you had him under contract, and I get that. But he's bad. Like, really bad. And now he's your only tackle with some experience in starting. It's just – I'm so glad they didn't sign him to a fifth year because he's just – he's useless. I've stood up for the guy a million times on a million different shows, but I can't do it anymore. He's bad.
Who, McGlinchey?
And he hasn't gotten better. No, McGlinchey, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry this is such a negative show, but, like, it's kind of a negative place right now. And maybe next week when we come back, they'll beat in Denver. Or, I'm sorry, they'll beat in the Rams because we'll be live right here on Tuesday, right after that game. We might even be live Monday night. Maybe we'll do a Monday night show after the game. You want to do that?
That'd be awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Do that.
So we'll plan to do a show as soon as the game ends. We'll pop on here. We'll talk about what happened, and hopefully it's more positive because I don't want to rant for 30 minutes about how dog shit the quarterback is. I mean, the guy ran out of his own fucking end zone. And if you're telling me that's Kyle's fault, I don't know what football you've watched in your entire life to tell me that Kyle Shanahan is responsible for the fact that his quarterback had no idea where the end zone is. In what planet do you blame the coach for the quarterback running out of the back of his own end zone?
I mean, you can't. You can't. You can't. For him, for the one thing that Kyle Shanahan has taken accountability for, why is it that one? Like, nobody in the history of the NFL, and you probably covered this.
Because I think he thinks it's funny. I think he thinks it's funny. I think he does it because he likes to troll people. He's like, out of all the things I can take accountability for, I'm going to take accountability for the fact that my quarterback ran out of the back of his own end zone. Because it's such a bad thing. I think it's because also it's such a bad thing for a quarterback to do. It may affect him actually getting to another team and them getting that third round comp pick because it's so stupid. Like, why would you go sign the guy who ran out of the back of his own end zone? Why?
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like they signed him to come back to potentially, if Lance got hurt, which he did, to potentially make a playoff run, and he's playing for his next contract. But you're right. Who's going to sign him after that? After that performance? No, if there was no market before, there's definitely not a market now. Like, no way.
Could you think of any NFL GM that's like, yeah, want the guy who ran out of the back of his own fucking end zone? That's my quarterback. I'd rather fucking Mitchell Trubisky than the guy who ran out of the back of his own fucking end zone.
I'll have to do a timeline, but I think Darren Orlovsky was in the booth like less than 2 years later after that. So
I just want him. Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think if he didn't sign back, I think he would have been out of the league in 2 years. So I think he's playing on borrowed time. I don't.
And our fans have to suffer for it.
Yeah.
It's a bummer. Absolute bummer. Kev, if they want to check out your stuff, how can they do it?
So I'm on Twitter at SF99er49, or right now my profile name is #GetWellTrey, if you want to look that up. I'm also writing for Stadium Rant, the Niner Empire section. So I think I have like 12 articles out now or something like that. So go ahead and give those a quick read. That website is really booming right now. I think we had like over 10,000 views this month. So we're growing. So go ahead and check that out as well.
And unfortunately, Jamal couldn't make it tonight. I think he was dealing with some work stuff. He has a pretty busy job, so Jamal couldn't join us. Hopefully, he'll be able to join us next Monday after the game. Like we said, we'll be back live after the 49ers-Rams game. You can find me at 90849 on Twitter. Check out the podcast. Check out the YouTube show. Show it to all your friends. And don't walk out of the back of your own fucking end zone. Hype train never stops.